community occupational therapy in enhancing the quality of life for dementia patients. He is also involved in social science research and collaborating with a senior occupational therapist to write a book on the topic. Okay, Eugene is particularly focused on researching concepts of affordance and ecological psychology. He plans to apply for grants to develop virtual reality solutions for early onset dementia patients. So today, please join me in welcoming Eugene to deliver his speech or his talk. At the end, we will be having Q&A. So if you do have questions and to ask, he will address it at the end of our talk. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Pastor Bessie. Where's the clicker? Okay, should I stand up or should I be on the floor? Yeah, okay. Okay, all right, that's fine. That's great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Pastor Bessie, for the introduction. Like Pastor Bessie said, my name is Eugene Yeo, and a lot of different introduction that Pastor Bessie talked about are things that are very alien to a lot of people, and if you don't understand any of those stuff, that's fine. I can explain to you another time, or we'll just take a break from all those jargons. So before we start, I want to show you guys a video first. Let's absorb the video, and then we'll have a discussion about the video before I start with the talk. Is that okay? All right, let's start with the video.
Don't point at me! Don't point at me!
What?
There's got to be a door somewhere. Wait, is there a door?
Oh, no, you can't reach the door, dude.
What?
No, there is.
I can't get here. No, I don't want to be. Where's the door? I have.
Chill, we're in the air. We're in the air.
Calm down.
Who are you? I don't know you.
What is going on? You don't touch me.
Your seat is here, sir.
No, I know I'm not supposed to be here. No. Why are you people looking at me like that?
So we need you to. What? Is there a woman with you? Do you know what she looks?
Get off of me, man! Don't be touching me, man. Who are you?
Dude, sit down.
No. Who are you? Why is everyone looking at me?
Chill.
Someone please do something.
Why are you looking at me?
I don't.
Don't look at me. I know. I gotta get out of here. Get away from me. Go away.
Okay, can someone
I don't want to be
please
here. Why am I here? Where am I?
Chill.
What is going on? Where am I?
Whoa,
Where am I?
That girl.
Where am I? No, don't touch me, man! Get your hands off of me! Don't touch me! What are you looking at? Go away! What is wrong with you people? Get away from me! Go away! Get away from me!
Get off my husband! Wait. Calm down. He has dementia, you guys. Wait.
Who are you? Don't touch me either!
It's me, baby.
Don't touch me!
Hey, don't
Get
touch
away.
her. Hey, get her away from him. Get her away from him.
Who are you? Get away, man!
Hey, guys.
Go away, dude, man!
Hey, guys.
Go away!
Hey, get off my husband. Wait a minute. Hold up.
Down and go back to it.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Honey, we have to.
What happened? What's going on?
You are my sunshine.
What?
My only
Go away! What are you looking at? Sit down! Why are you people? Sit down!
It's okay. No,
So who are you? Stop touching me! What are you looking at? You! I see you be fucking away from me! Go away!
I'm not going to touch you.
What is with the people?
Go back to your seat, sir.
He has dementia. I need you guys to help
Don't
me
look at
calm
me like
down.
that.
Just help me sing.
What do we do?
Just help me sing.
Why you don't point at me? Don't you point at me!
All right, I won't.
You hear me?
Sunshine, you make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Don't take my sunshine away. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You never know, dear,
My sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You never know, dear, how much I love you. So don't take my sunshine away.
All right, that was a short video clip, and I like to make all my talks and sessions as interactive as possible. So now I'll ask you, when you watched the short video clip just now, what came into your mind? Give me some words, give me some ideas. What came to your mind? Lost memory, okay. What else? Whining outburst, yeah. Emotional outburst, yes. What else? What do you notice about the video? He doesn't want people to be around him, to touch him. Yeah. What else? A lot of people don't know, are unaware about dementia. What else? He recognized his wife, kind of. In initial part, he didn't quite recognize his wife. Yeah. What else? Huh? The song, yes, that's right. What else? Very good one. What else? Nothing else? Okay. So this is a very typical kind of patient or person that you will meet when you see dementia patients. The unfortunate thing is that people are unaware about the disease. When people are unaware about the disease, what happens is that you will start thinking a lot of different things differently. I give you one example. In University of North Texas, that's where I am at, there is a assistant professor that I speak with a lot of times. She's from a different department, and she's a Malaysian herself. And she was sharing her experience with me about her grandmother. They used to live in Penang, and when the grandmother suffered from dementia towards the last, I think, 10 over years before she passed on. One of the things that the grandmother will constantly do is to get in the car with the whole family and then drive down the highway, drive down the road, and halfway through, the grandmother will wind down the window and shout to everybody on the road and says, "Please help me, please rescue me, I've been abducted." Can you imagine that scenario? Your own family member, I mean, the granddaughter, I'm driving the car halfway, and then the grandmother wound down the window, and the grandmother is shouting to everybody on the road trying to get help, saying that she's been abducted. That is a very common thing. Because why? The grandmother didn't recognize her at all. The grandmother is trapped in a different time. The grandmother thinks that she is still in her 30s, but she doesn't realize that she's actually in the 80s. All right, and that she's got a granddaughter. She's got, son-in-laws and daughter-in-laws and stuff like that. So that is the major issue with dementia. People cannot relate to. The public don't actually understand what's going on. Just imagine if, talking about the case about the grandmother winding down the window, calling people to help and stuff like that, saying that she's abducted. If you are unaware about dementia, what would you do? You would call police first, don't you? You will probably try to figure out or chase the fella and get all the information and all sorts of different things. Yeah, as a concerned citizen, yeah, that's what you would do. But you have to also understand and you have to also judge the situation based on the circumstances that's actually presented before you. So today, my purpose is to actually help you to understand about what is Alzheimer's and what's dementia all about. All right, and then we will go on to look at the 10 signs and symptoms and so on and so forth. So before I start, this set of slides is actually taken from Alzheimer's Association, Dallas chapter. So I am based in Dallas, Texas, And one of the things I do is I volunteer with Alzheimer's Association over in Dallas, Fort Worth area as a community educator. So as a community educator, what I do is I go to places like this and I give talk to explain to people about what Alzheimer's is, what's dementia, and so on and so forth. So you will be surprised that even in the States itself, there are a lot of people who actually don't know what dementia is all about. And people, the awareness is so low, people don't know what to do, don't know how to react. Okay, so these, okay, so these are the learning objectives for today. First, I will explain to you what's the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia. That's very important, yeah? Second, I will look at what's going on with the brain of an Alzheimer's patient. Third, we look at the risk factors. What do you think are the risk factors of developing the disease? Number 4, we'll look at the stages. Can we recognize the stages of dementia? If once we have recognized it, what can we do? The next part is basically looking at all the research that's actually available out there. And then the last part is looking at the resources. What are the resources available for the dementia? Okay. So first, we'll look at Alzheimer's and dementia. What's the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia? Okay, so dementia is just a generic term. It's a general term to actually show or to tell you that there is actually something going on with the memory. There's issue with the memory problems. Second is language. They will have problems with language. And then the third one is problem solving. They can no longer problem solve a lot of things. And then finally, they cannot think properly. And as a result of all these 4 things, it affects their daily life. They cannot function properly. They cannot do a lot of things on their own. They rely on people. They are dependent on people. And then the next question is, what's Alzheimer's then? So Alzheimer's is a type of dementia. In fact, it's the most common form of dementia that's actually available. The 4 common forms of dementia that we actually see a lot in the clinical settings are Alzheimer's is one. Second one is vascular dementia. Third one is Lewy body. And the fourth one is frontal temporal lobe dementia. Having said that, that does not mean that there are only 4 types of dementia. There are a lot of types of dementia, and there are primary causes of dementia, secondary causes of dementia. What I mean by that, so if it's primary causes of dementia, it means that the loss of memory starts first. That is the primary cause. The secondary cause of dementia is because of some other reasons which actually cause the memory loss. For example, the person suffers from a stroke. So what happens is this, when the person suffers from a stroke and then recover later on, parts of the brain were deprived from oxygen for a long period of time, and as a result of that, those part of the brain, what we call cells die off, and as they die off, what happens is they forget different things. So that's a secondary cause of dementia. And then at the same time also, you've got a lot of other things where you call it as mixed dementia, where they've got primary causes mixed with secondary causes, with many other different things all combined together. So it's a very complicated thing. It's very difficult to actually kind of like pinpoint to exactly and say that this is Alzheimer's, this is vascular dementia, this Lewy body you can tell, frontal temporal you can actually tell a little bit, but the others is kind of very difficult to actually distinguish it from other forms of dementia. Okay.
Let's look at.
Okay, then the next one we'll look at is the what's going on actually with the brain. So if you look and see over here on the left-hand side, your left-hand side is the normal brain. And then on your right-hand side is the dementia brain. As you can see with the dementia, what happens is that a lot of the pointer is not okay. So a lot of the brain cells over here are shrinking. Because the brain cells, or the brain is also shrinking over here, as a result of that, a lot of the cells of the brain starts to die off. When they die off, then that's what is left. You got a shrunken brain over here as compared to a normal brain, all right? And as you can see also, what happens is that there are a couple of different areas where it's badly affected. Language, so this part is language over here, and this part is memory. So when your memory shrinks, or your memory cells of your brain starts to die off, you have got lesser space for memory. At the same time also, the second problem with dementia is language problem. They've got language problems. And this part used to be where the language problem is, and the brain of that particular part where it controls the language starts to shrink as well. And that's the reason why you've got this problem with dementia. Memory problem, and as well as also language problem. So that's what's going on in the brain of a dementia person. Okay, let's do some pop quiz over here. Alzheimer's is a normal part of an aging process. Do you think it's true or it's false? False? How many say it's false? Raise your hands. All right. How many think it's true? Okay. The answer is false. All right. Alzheimer's is not a normal part of an aging process. Okay. So then people get confused. So what happens then when I get older? Yeah, everybody starts forgetting things. Isn't that part of aging? No, not necessary. All right, so I'll talk about that later on in the last few slides. Second question, second pop quiz. People younger than age 65 can get dementia. True or false? Very good. And that's what my research is all about, people who are below 65 years old. So the answer is true. All right, so let me show you. So people who get dementia below the age of 65, generally we classify them as what we call as early onset dementia, or EOD in short. And that's the definition that we use in the medical literature. Why am I looking at this particular population per se? Why do I want to look at the early onset dementia? Because there is a tremendous economic impact. What do I mean by economic impact? Because these are the people who are actually actively working. You have got people between age 30 to 50 years old. They are the one that's actually paying the taxes. They are the one that's actually paying the EPF. They are paying the whatever, everything else. And they are the one that's actually contributing to the economy and actually causing the economy to move around. When you have this population, removed from the market force or the workforce, you've got lesser taxes to collect. You've got lesser EPF. You've got lesser everything else. And that's the reason why it has got a global and economic impact in the country per se, and then ultimately a global impact in total. Okay. In the US, what happened was in 2019, one of the biggest insurance company, Blue Cross Blue Shield, did a survey, and they found out that people ages between 30 to 44 had an increase of about 400% in terms of early onset diagnosis, early onset dementia diagnosis. So what's the statistics over here in Malaysia? I don't know. Thus far in the hospital, I've been interning in the hospital for Sungai Buloh for about 2 months or 3 months. I've only seen like about 5 cases. How many more? I don't know. Are they all captured? Probably not. Maybe a lot of them are actually not seen in the hospital at all, and nobody knows that they have got early onset dementia. And the other reason why this population is very important to study is because a lot of them are actually misdiagnosed. They have got a lot of other different issues that come together with it. They may not necessarily have what you call that memory loss per se as one of the issues. They may go into the hospital and say, doctor, I've got a headache. Doctor, my shoulder ache, my body doesn't feel good and stuff like that. So the doctor will look at that particular issue rather than the memory issue. So that's the reason why it gets misdiagnosed a lot of times. Okay, and then the other reason is also because of awareness. A lot of doctors will basically say, no, you're just too young, it's impossible to have dementia, you're too young. And then the patients will be like, oh, it's impossible because dementia is always a grandfather issue, grandmother disease, that kind of stuff. So it cannot be me. All right, so the problem starts cropping up and the issues become worse, and then behavioral changes starts to take place, and then that's where they go see the doctor. And then by then they see the doctor also like, nah, you will just put you on some antipsychotic drugs to calm you down. You're probably having some, stress at work, go see a psychologist, go see a psychiatrist, that kind of stuff. But they actually get slips off from the whole detection process. Okay. Then finally, another reason why I want to study this particular, what we call that population, is because of stigmatization. What do I mean by this? Maybe not so much over here in Malaysia or in Asia, but in the Western countries, they've got a lot of social benefits. Which means that if you really cannot take care of yourself, the whole idea is that the government, part of the social program that the government has, is to actually take care of those people who cannot take care of themselves. So again, because of misdiagnosis, because of the lack of awareness, by the time these people have these issues, they cannot work, they go to the social welfare office, and then they want to file for social benefits, they get turned down, and a lot of them will say that, no, you're just abusing the system, you don't qualify, you are in the working age, and so on and so forth, and stuff like that. So they becomes more difficult and heartbreaking for the patients, as also for the family members itself. Just imagine, you really have a problem, and you go to see the social worker to actually apply for social benefits, and they tell you, no, you're cheating, you're lying, or whatever the kind of stuff. So it's very detrimental to them. That's one of the other major issues that's why I actually want to study this particular group of patients. Okay, if you can see over here, it's too small. At the moment in time, the prevalence of the disease, early onset dementia, is like about 119 per 100,000 globally, which is a big number. And the number is expected to continue to rise dramatically in the next couple of years. Okay, so now we've looked at what's the definition between Alzheimer's and dementia. We looked at what's going on in the brains of a dementia person. We'll look at the risk factors right now. What are the risk factors? Okay, let's play another pop quiz. What are the greatest known risk factors for Alzheimer's disease? Do you think it's genetics? Do you think it's family history? Or do you think it's age? Who say it's genetics? 1, 2. All right. Who say it's family history? 1, 2. Who say it's age? 1. Okay. So the rest, no opinion. The greatest risk factor, the keyword is greatest, right? The greatest risk factor of developing Alzheimer's or dementia is actually age. The more you age, yeah, you got it right, ma'am. The more you age, the more likelihood it is that you will be, the person will actually develop Alzheimer's and dementia. But having said that, that does not mean that genetics or family history are not risk factors. They are risk factors, okay? It's just that they are a lower risk factor as compared to age. So that's where I'm going to present to you the next slide. These are the information or the risk factors that the Alzheimer's Association US compiled to actually look at the risk factors. They were looking at the age, the race per se. Black Americans are 2 times more likely to develop Alzheimer's compared to the white Americans. The Hispanics are about 1.5 times more likely to develop the disease compared to the white Americans. And 2/3 of the people in America that suffers from Alzheimer's disease are all women. So that's something that's very interesting. Of course, there's a lot of other different statistics, but these are the 3 major statistics that we actually put together. What about the Asians? A lot of people ask. They have not really studied the Asian population. Probably because of a few reasons. Number one, no Asians want to come forward. It's a very common thing. The Asian community over here in the Asia and the Asian community over in the West are the same. You don't tell me I've got dementia. You don't tell me I'm crazy. That's a common thing. You know, the children will say, let's go see a psychologist, go see a psychiatrist. The parents will turn around and say, you think I'm crazy? It's a common thing, right? Same thing over in the States as well. They are not able to get information. They are not able to get people to actually volunteer to come forward to, be part of the research, to be part of the statistics and stuff like that. So now we've looked at the risk factors. The next part, what we want to look at is the stages of dementia. How many stages of dementia? Why is it important to know the stages of dementia? Because once you know the stages of the disease itself, you will know what to do, number one, as in like whether you want to go for medication or you want to go to non-medication route. And then the next thing that you want to do is you need to start planning in terms of what to do with your home. And what do I mean by that? What do you do by what to do with your home? Because you need to do a lot of modification to the home for a dementia person to be in your home, right? For example, you don't want to have got steps. That's one of the issues. Why you don't want to have steps? Because one of the problems with dementia patients is that they've got problem with their vision. They cannot judge how deep this or how high this stage is. So to them, the height of the stage and the floor is more or less the same. So they just go, then they fall down. Things like that. They cannot see color very clearly. So when you're telling them that it's green color, go get the green color container, they'll be like, what green color container? They cannot see green, or they cannot see different colors. They cannot differentiate the colors very clearly. So these are a lot of issues that you actually bear in mind when a person is actually diagnosed with dementia. You need to start doing a lot of home modification that is very friendly. And these are the kind of things that nobody will tell you, nobody will teach you, and stuff like that. And then the other one is financial planning. Financial planning is very important because once the person is actually diagnosed early on in with dementia, you need to start putting all your financial things in order, because there will come a time where the patient can no longer comprehend what he or she is actually doing. Doing what you call that banking becomes a very major issue. They don't know what's actually going on. There are a lot of cases that I've actually heard where people were actually doing a lot of financial transactions that ultimately caused them badly. And the children have to go to the banks, and the children have to go to all the different places to actually get things sorted out for their parents. Of course, the other one is also financial because of medical or healthcare treatment. Caregiving is a very expensive, field today in Malaysia. If it's expensive in Malaysia, it's a lot more expensive overseas. You can just imagine. If they don't have insurance overseas, you're gone. There is no way you can actually afford that. One trip to a doctor itself, a specialist, probably costs you $300. That doesn't include the, medication. That doesn't include all the other follow-ups and stuff like that. There is no way you can afford $300 per visit. You're going to be bankrupt very quickly. So that's the reason why it's important to actually identify the stages of Alzheimer's or dementia and to start doing a lot of preparation as early as possible. And what I'm going to show you is a generic, the keyword is generic, generic stages of dementia. That does not mean that everybody will progress exactly like this. Nobody will progress exactly like this. This is basically just a kind of a model that Alzheimer's Association has put together based on a lot of reports, based on a lot of the data that they actually received from different people over the years. So the first part is the green color, where you actually, it's called the asymptomatic stage. During the asymptomatic stage, what happens is that there is already something going on with the brains. You know, the brain cells are probably dying, there's some form of injuries going on, there's some form of damage going on, and so on and so forth and stuff like that. But there is no symptoms. The person doesn't have any problems with memory issues, the person doesn't have any language issues. You wouldn't suspect that person is actually having dementia already, all right? So that's the first stage, the green color part. Something's going on in the brains, there is no signs, there are no symptoms to actually show that the person is actually having dementia. Second part is the orange part. That's where you call it as mild cognitive impairment, or MCI. So during this stage, what happens is that it's the early part, the person starts to exhibit signs of memory loss, cannot remember a lot of different things, having problems with language, having problems with different stuff, and misplacing things, cannot find things and stuff like that. That's a part. And that's the part you want to catch as soon as possible. Because what happens is, between the asymptomatic stage to the MCI stage, who knows? It has maybe it maybe has been going on for the past 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Nobody actually knows. So that's the reason why the orange part, the MCI stage, is very important to catch these patients as soon as possible and to start preparing. And then once you catch the MCI stage, or the orange color stage, what happens is that the disease will continue to progress to the purple color stage. The purple color stage, that's where it's classified as dementia. It's really dementia already. And then dementia itself, they divide it into 3 different categories: mild, moderate, and severe. Okay, and a lot of times, patients, by the time they're actually diagnosed, they are probably in the moderate stage already. So that's very difficult. And that's why you need to actually understand the stages of dementia and to capture them as soon as possible. Okay. Now, what about the treatment that are available? There are treatments available, medication. So I'm talking purely about medication right now. There are treatment available for medication. Over the past, I think, 30, 40 years, what happens is that there's only like 2 classes of drugs available for treating dementia. When I talk about dementia, I'm talking about the memory loss per se, yeah? So there are only about 2 classes of drugs available. You need to speak with your doctors to actually find out which would be good for you and stuff like that. More common is because when these people are actually diagnosed with dementia, they will have a lot of other drugs that go together with the dementia or the memory drug per se. A lot of them may actually end up with a lot of antipsychotic drugs, a lot of things to actually calm them down in terms of the emotion, their behavior, hallucination, and a lot of other different problems like that. So you will end up with a lot of drugs at the end of the day. So just bear in mind about that. What Alzheimer's Association does is that they are embarking on a lot of research, which are very important to actually discover what are the treatments available for dementia. And it's been ongoing, but one of the problems with the research is that they are only capturing these problems with patients who have actually been diagnosed with dementia. Okay, they are unable to capture patients, the asymptomatic patients, because what you want to do in research is, during the asymptomatic phase, you want to find out what's actually attacking the brain, and you want to stop the attack or stop the problem and stuff like that. So that part of the research is kind of a little bit difficult for them to do right now, but it's actually, they are looking at it from different perspectives right now. Okay, then the next part I want to introduce to you is occupational therapy. The reason why I'm introducing to you occupational therapy is because it's a non-pharmaceutical approach to dementia treatment or dementia therapy. And this is one of the things that I work on right now, that I'm working on right now with Hospital Sungai Buloh. A lot of people are not aware of occupational therapy, okay? show of hand, how many of you know what occupational therapy is all about? Anybody? Okay. So it's a very common thing when I ask a question, does anybody know what occupational therapy is? Nobody puts up their hand. And it's not a problem in Malaysia alone. It's a problem over in the US as well. A lot of people are not aware what occupational therapy is all about. So occupational therapy is actually a form of therapy. Okay, let me ask you another question. How many of you know what physical therapy is? Anybody knows physical therapy? Okay, yeah, there's some hands about physical therapy. Okay, so physical therapy and occupational therapy are very similar, but they are distinct. Physical therapy look at when your muscles are weak, you need to strengthen your muscles. Your joints are out of alignment, so you strengthen the muscles to get your joints back into position, stuff like that. That's physical therapy. It's all about strengthening. Okay? Occupational therapy is, the word itself, occupation, is not the kind of job that you do, like, you know, I'm an accountant, I'm an engineer, I'm a doctor. No, it doesn't refer to that. The word occupation refers to the activities that you actually do. For example, if a stroke patient, after the stroke, the person can no longer walk. So walking is an occupation. You get it? Okay? So that's what it means by occupational therapy. With this occupational therapy, what happens is the therapist will sit down with you to help you regain the occupation that you have lost control. Clear? So that's what occupational therapy is. Therapy is all about. With dementia patients, what happens is, what is the occupation that is lost? The occupation that is lost is memory, thinking, problem solving, correct? Those are the occupations that are lost. And with the occupational therapists, what they do is they sit down with the patient, try to help the patient to regain back the occupation of memory, occupation of thinking, problem solving, and so on and so forth. That's what occupational therapy does. I really advocate for occupational therapy. The reason is because I've seen a lot of results with occupational therapy. Okay, I have been exposed to occupational therapy since the day I was in my undergraduate a long, long time ago. Because I was in the Allied Health Professional College, and occupational therapy was one of the departments under the college, and that's how I actually learned a lot of things about occupational therapy. And we are actually blessed. I am very surprised that in Malaysia, we've got occupational therapists, very, very qualified occupational therapists in the government hospitals. That is something that I am very, very shocked. And these people actually know what they're doing. And they've been well trained either over here or overseas. And that's why I picked Hospital Sungai Buloh, because they've got a department in geriatrics, and they've got occupational therapists that are stationed in the geriatric departments, mainly for dementia patients, to actually help them to recover their occupation that they've lost. Memory mainly, thinking, problem solving. Having said that, does that mean that it's a cure to dementia? No, it's not a cure to dementia. That's all I can tell you. But it helps to improve the quality of life of these patients. What do I mean by that? Very commonly, what happens is that dementia patient, okay, for example, the mother is in the 70s, loves cooking, but has got dementia. So the mother continues cooking for the household, for the children, and so on and so forth. Then one day, the mother forgot to turn off the stove. Then the pot got burned. Whatever that was inside the pot was burned, you know, so on and so forth. And then the children come back, and the children says, no, from now onwards, you don't do any more cooking. Is that right or is that wrong? Some say right, some say wrong. If you're talking from a medical perspective, the doctor says, no, that's wrong. Stop doing all the, don't do any more cooking. You shouldn't do any more cooking. That's wrong, okay? But from an occupational therapist, he'll say that, no, you should not stop them from cooking. Why? Because when you remove cooking from them, they've got nothing else more to do. When they've got nothing else more to do, what happens to the brain? The brain shrinks even faster because it's actually not exercising the part of the brains that is involved in cooking. So what the occupational therapy does then is sit down with the family member, says, okay, let's look at intervention. What do we need to do? Mother likes cooking. That's the only thing the mother does at home, correct? Yeah, okay. How do we encourage the mother to do cooking, but at the same time, not detrimental to the family or to the house? That's where things like this takes place in the occupational therapy session. The therapist will sit down, they do a 360-degree, what you call the assessment, and you will find that some of the questions the occupational therapist will ask you may become very, very invasive, like, what time do you wake up in the morning? What time do you go to the market? Why do you buy what you buy? When do you buy what you buy? It becomes very invasive. You go like, why are you so busybody, right? But there is a reason behind it, because what happens is the therapist is trying to figure out a lot of different things, put a plan together, and then reintroduce it to the family members and also to the mother, so that everybody can work together. One of the easiest way that I've actually heard a lot, I'm using this case because I hear a lot in the hospital, the therapist will be repeating the same thing all of again, so it's stuck in my brain. So the therapist will say, okay, if the mother likes cooking, you don't want the mother to cook, one of the best solution is you need to have somebody to stand by with the mother while the mother is cooking. That solves the issue, right? So the mother can no longer cut, let's say, the meat properly. Fine. Then you have a person next to the mother while the mother is actually doing the cooking. So it needs cutting, so you help the mother to do the cutting. That itself helps the mother to regain back purpose of life. That's very important. Because you remove that particular thing, that particular occupation left from the mother, which is cooking, the mother has got no more occupation, the mother will become more depressed. And that's why a lot of times, one of the things that the geriatric department does is they do a lot of depression assessments. Because a lot of these old, folks come into the hospital, into the geriatric department, they are so depressed, they've got nothing to do at home. They cannot do anything at home. They cannot do anything at all, so they are just confined to the chair, to the TV, to the bed. 4 walls, that's it, finish, end of story. So, what if you think about it from a different perspective? What if I put you on a chair, in front of the TV, in a room, 4-wall room, 24 hours a day? Do you think you'll survive? No, it's not possible at all. What more do you think about a dementia patient? You force them that way, the faster they will deteriorate. They will have no quality of life left. So that's why occupational therapists sit down and go through all these different processes, these different, purpose, to understand a lot of different things and come up with a treatment plan. And with occupational therapy, one of the things is that you can never bluff the occupational therapists. Okay, so if you look at this over here, the first major difference with occupational therapists is that they look at the essential humanity of patients and they provide life satisfaction. That is occupational therapists. But with medicine or medical, what they do is they look at treating the person or freeing the person from death threat due to infection or whatever, that kind of stuff. So that is one major shift in terms of paradigm itself already, in terms of the way how they actually treat. Then I look at the bottom over here. For occupational therapists, they understand subjectivity, all right, perspective of the patient, whereas with the, the doctors, they look at the objectivity. What do I mean by that? So the doctors will say, okay, you got dementia, right? Yes. Let's look at all the different scans to confirm it. So you go for a PET scan, you go for MRI scan, you go for CT scan, you do whatever different scans, and then look at the film, and then it says, oh, okay, definitely confirmed. You got a shrinkage in this part of the brain, you got this, you got that, you got this spots over here and stuff like that. So therefore, yes, you're confirmed, you've got dementia. So let's start with medication. They give you the medication. Let's take this. Fair enough. But the occupational therapists, they'll do similar things. They will usually be referred to after the doctor sees them. The therapist will sit down and says, okay, you've got these problems over here. Then they'll ask you a series of questions, go through the whole assessment with you for about 1 week or so, and then they come up. They give you all the different exercises to do, or they give you all the homework to do. You need to do this at home. The next round, when they go see the doctor asks the patient, did you take your medication? Yes, I did. What's the problem with that? When the doctor asks the patient, did you take your medication? And the patient says, yes, I did. What is the major problem with that? Is it true? Correct. What's the major problem with dementia? They cannot remember. So if they tell the doctor, yeah, I take the medication, what do you think? That's one of the major issues. So it's really, a little bit interesting, that part over there. And then the doctors will just say, oh, okay, yeah, you did take your medication. Your patient says took medication. That's one way of checking. But a lot of times what happens is also the doctor will ask the patient's caregiver, did the person take the medication? Then you get a true answer. And most of the time when I sit down in the clinic and when I hear all these answers, the caregiver says, of course no lah, doctor. That is the major issue over here. Okay? But with occupational therapists, what happens is that there is no way they can bluff the occupational therapist. If the occupational therapist asks the patient, did you do this particular, exercises or tests or, whatever homework? If the patient says, yes, I did, then the occupational therapist will sit down, okay, show it to me right now. You say you did at home, right? Okay, show it to me right now. Most of the time, it will never work. So it's a clear cut already. You know the patient didn't do the homework. Even if the patients can kind of do the homework, bluff a little bit here and there and stuff like that, then the therapist will say, oh, okay, sit down. Let's check on your muscles. Or let's check on this, other different. They'll twist and turn the exercises a little bit and then pulls it back to the patient. And most of the time, the patients can never get it right. So obviously, it's a clear cut. The therapist will tell the patients, auntie, you didn't do your homework lah. Very clear cut. Then the therapist will sit down with the patients again. Okay, what's the problem here? Why didn't you do the homework? Why not? Then they go through the whole series, go through the whole thing all over again. Then, slowly discover. A lot of times the patients cannot remember a lot of different things. That's one thing. Second thing, a lot of times they don't want to tell you a lot of personal things the first time round. So that's where the therapist develop a relationship with the patients after a couple of sessions, and then the patients open up. I actually don't like the exercises because it's too hard for me. Then the therapist will say, what do you mean by too hard? That's where the therapist will find out, oh, actually because the environment at home is not conducive to do the particular exercises. Why? Because at home, the bed is too low to do those exercises. Then the therapist says, okay, let's improvise the exercise. We'll do this. What about doing this? What about doing this? That's how the therapist gets things done, and step by step changing a lot of different issues and different problems. And the other thing that I've been involved in the Hospital Sungai Buloh is the community occupational therapy sessions. What do I mean by that? That is something that, again, it shocked me. I didn't realize that Malaysia had this particular program. It's a program that is well known in Europe, not even in the States, but Malaysia has this. It's called cognitive stimulation therapy, which is a form of community occupational therapy. What they do is, occupational therapists organize groups of patients that come. They come in on Friday, 9 o'clock to about 11:30-ish. All the patients sit down together, and then what they do is they do a lot of different occupational therapy sessions, activities. There are like about 14 themes of activities that they do all in total, or throughout the whole program. The program is about for 7 weeks. So during the 7 weeks, they do about 14 different activities altogether, and all the activities has got reason behind it. They target different aspects of memory, executive function, motor skills function, physical function, emotional issues, behavioral issues, and a lot of these different things. And the results is remarkable. The results is actually remarkable. In terms of the literature-wise, I know that it works 100% because I know I've read a lot of things from European side. But in Malaysia, I only started seeing the real, live results a couple of weeks ago when they actually finished the first session of the cognitive stimulation therapy. And it works in a sense that the patients come in, they can recognize things better. They can recognize people. Their emotions are not so high. So just imagine the video that I showed you guys earlier on, the guy in the plane. What was the major issue? He cannot recognize where he is. All right? He cannot recognize that he's actually flying. His time, is all messed up and stuff like that. So with these patients who actually attend this community occupational therapy session, I noticed that they can remember people's names. It's amazing. Because what happens is, people always say that with dementia, your short-term memory is gone, which is true most of the time. They come in there, they sit down with you for 5 minutes, they tell you the same thing again after that in half an hour's time. It's the same repetition all over again, or they ask you the same question, it's the same thing. But with these patients who are actually in this cognitive stimulation therapy, they improved in the sense that they are actually able to remember a couple of different things. They can remember, some of them can actually remember the things that they did last week, which is actually very impressive. They can remember the names of the people in the group. And, it's something that you have to actually see on your own to actually believe it. Okay, so that's one thing. Second thing, somebody mentioned about the video just now. The song actually played an important role. That's, again, reminiscence therapy. It's a form of therapy that actually helps to bring out all the memory in the brains from the past. And again, that actually works. I've seen that also in the, community occupational therapy sessions, and it actually works wonders on these different people. Okay, so that's why I want to share with you about occupational therapy. And if you are interested, you can always join the occupational therapy session on Friday. Let me know. I can hook you up. You can have an idea. You can have exposure. The person that I work with, her name is Monica. She's one of the senior occupational therapists in Sungai Buloh Hospital. And she's been advocating occupational therapy for dementia for many years. And what she does is she does a lot of talks for a lot of churches. And there are a lot of different churches have actually come forward and volunteer in her community occupational therapy sessions. And some of the churches, at least I know one, has come forward and says that they want to set up a community occupational therapy center as well, which is really wonderful. And it's a very good outreach. Why I say it's a very good outreach is because we need this kind of people in Malaysia. Okay, there aren't any daycares available for these patients. Family members have no idea where to go. They don't know what to do. And by going through this, what do you call that, sessions, patients are able to be more stable emotionally, and it helps with the caregiver, and it also helps with the family members in general. Okay. Let me show you this graph in terms of all the people that the occupational therapists speak to. It's not working. Okay, I have no idea how to change the slides. Okay. Pointer is not working. Yeah, okay. So if you look at this graph over here, all these circles, oh, you probably can't see it properly. All these circles are all the different information that the occupational therapist will draw out from the individual persons or the family members. So you will draw a lot of information about the physical environment of the home. You draw a lot of psychological issues with from the patients, the emotional issues, the mental health, the everything else. They would pretty much draw every single thing out from the patients. It's a 360-degree, and they'll recommend all the different changes that's actually required. And there is another, what do you call that diagram, but I didn't put it over in the slide. The occupational therapists overseas, they deal with literally everybody in the whole healthcare system, from the doctors right up to the bottom, which are the nurses and the social worker, to actually get the patients on track. Okay. All right, so we are coming towards the end. Where can you get more information? So, because this is part of the Alzheimer's Association talks that I deliver everywhere, so these are the places that you can actually get all the information. There's a 24/7 helpline that's actually available. That's a US number, but if you know how to use your VoIP, you can change your VoIP to a US line, and then you can call in there to actually get all those information as well. It's the same thing. Okay, second place that you can get all the information is from the website, Alzheimer's Association website, which is alz.org. And then the third one, which we don't have yet in Malaysia, it's the community network. I am hoping to be able to set up something like that with Sungai Buloh this year. And I missed the first round on Friday, so I'll go back probably on this coming Friday to actually help them out to set up. All right, so that's pretty much the whole thing. Before I proceed forward, I want to take a break first and give you guys an opportunity to ask questions. Do you guys have any questions? Yes, sir. Yeah. A very good question. So if those of you who didn't hear the question is, does dementia drugs and antipsychotic drugs prescribed for the dementia patients actually mess them up further, or does it help them? That's a very good question. I've got my personal opinion on that, but based on the medical, what do you call that, answer that I've give is that you have to speak with your medical doctor to actually determine what is actually best. It's recorded. Okay, we'll take it offline. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
There's this supplemental ginkgo, which I heard can help to slow down dementia. But however, I also heard that ginkgo is a blood thinner. So what's your advice?
Again, my advice is go see your doctor and discuss with your doctor to get a better understanding of what these things do and how they actually help. If you ask medical professionals, they will always basically tell you that you need to speak with your doctor to get a better understanding on what works best.
Okay, my second question, you are now serving in Sungai Buloh Hospital. Okay, you told us just now to make appointment for occupational therapy with you and Monica, is it? Okay, that means will be on a government hospital charges, isn't it? Which is minimal, right?
Okay. So what I was actually advocating is people who actually come, who actually want to see what community occupational therapy is all about, whether it works or it doesn't work. That's what I was actually proposing. So what you want to do is you want to take this opportunity, because Monica is opening up to everybody to come in and to serve as part of the volunteers to help with the community occupational therapy sessions and stuff like that. So you sit down, it's free of charge, there are no charges at all. You sit down together, and then there will be somebody who's a little bit more senior as a volunteer who is a little bit more senior, or Monica or another occupational therapist who a little bit more senior, who actually guide you and tell you, okay, this is what you do, okay, this is the activity we're doing, this is what is going on and stuff like that. So there is no charge at all for that. It's once a week, Friday. They just started a new session. Every session runs for 7 weeks. So Friday was the first session, so you come forward when is the session going to end. And that's where you actually get to interact with the patients also. You get to see how the patients react to different things, how the patients talk. Then you can kind of make up a lot of different ideas about what it is all about. But if you're talking about somebody who is already have dementia and wants to be on what you call the occupational therapy and stuff like that, what I would suggest is that you go to the Hospital Sungai Buloh, go to the geriatric department, and then get seen by the geriatrician over there, and the geriatrician will actually refer to occupational therapy and stuff like that. And then they will obviously, the geriatrician will also obviously ask, do you want to be involved in the cognitive stimulation therapy, CST they call it. And if yes, then they will refer you to the CST, which will be handled by Monica, and then the session will take place and so on and so forth and things like that. Does that answer your question?
Okay. Sungai Buloh General Hospital is very huge, and they serve a lot of patients.
Yes.
Okay?
Yep.
So is there any direct line that we can call up to make appointment? We have to go there.
Yep.
Yeah, I suspected so.
Yeah, you walk in there, and the geriatric department is not in the main hospital, yeah? The geriatric department is in the formerly leprosy center. Okay, so that's where it's based at, which is really good and which is very ideal, because it provides a lot of ample parking space. A lot of these geriatric people, they cannot walk. And the family members, the last thing you want the family members to do is go around the hospital 10 times to look for parking, and then by the time they find the parking, then it is like 2 kilometers away from the hospital block, and then they have to walk and stuff like that. So that's the reason why they did not house the geriatric department in the main hospital. They house it in the, what you call the previous leprosy center. So that place there is isolated, a lot of parking. How do you actually go in there to actually get an appointment? You need to go to the main block to get an appointment. Okay, does that answer your question?
So what time is the registration open? 8 a.m. at the main block. We have to go to the main block to get the registration, right?
For patients, you're talking about patients, correct?
Let's say I want to go for the occupational therapy. I have to register first at the main block, right?
You're talking about for patient or as a volunteer for the CST program?
Okay, let's say volunteer.
Okay, if you want to go there as a volunteer, you connect with me directly. And then I'll connect you with what you call Monica, and then we'll give you all the information. You don't have to go into the hospital.
Okay, then you give us your contact number.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say there's patient. So we go to the main block of the Sungai Buloh Hospital.
Yeah.
So what time does registration open? 7 a.m., 8
I have
a.m.?
no clue about that. I have no clue. I believe you do need to get a referral from your GP to actually go to the hospital.
To get a referral letter from the GP.
Yeah, I believe so.
From
That's
our
how
normal clinic.
Because geriatrician is actually a specialist clinic. It's not a normal clinic. Unless you are actually being seen in the, what is that thing called? Clinic kesihatan. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to ask, some seniors, they oversleep. Sleep, nap. Does it cause dementia?
Yeah, it does.
Huh?
The simplest answer is yes, it does. There's somebody behind you, Pastor.
If we take patients in there, how much is the fees involved?
Sungai Buloh Hospital?
Yes. I mean, as geriatric patients.
I think you see it's a normal for Malaysians, like what, 3 ringgit?
How much?
Like 3 ringgit, 5 ringgit. I don't know what is the actual cost.
Which means to say that we must get a referred letter from a doctor first before we go there.
Yeah.
And then when we go there, we have to register.
Yeah.
And I would like to know the fees of which you are not sure.
It's about 3 ringgit or 5 ringgit. That's about it. I think for each time you go see the geriatrician. Yeah, but for the occupational therapy, it's all free. Senior is free right now, yeah? Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, then it's free. Then it's free then. You don't pay anything. That's one of the major issues with a lot of senior citizens. The circadian rhythm is out of sync. They cannot sleep at the right time. They cannot wake up at the right time. So it really varies from patient to patient. Some of them are okay about 5 hours. Some of them they need 8 hours. So it all depends. But one of the major problems you will find is that they don't sleep at the right time. They wake up at the wrong time. Sundown syndrome is a very common thing. It's a real thing. What do I mean by sundown syndrome? What happens is when the sun starts going down, the dementia patient starts acting out. Yeah, for some reasons, mentally they just start breaking out into a lot of issues and stuff like that. I've heard even like one patient, this elderly woman, she wakes up like 3 o'clock in the morning, and then she's going to wake up all her daughter and says, it's time to wake up. And the daughter like, I'm sleeping. And so how do you actually deal with it? You cannot, there's a lot of issues related to all these different senior citizens with dementia. Yeah.
You know, sleep until 10 o'clock, still don't want to wake up.
Consistency is very important. If it has always been there like that, then retain it that way. But what you want to do is you want to stop the napping. The only way you can actually stop the napping is to actually get the person to be active. You need to have a sequence. You need to have a proper routine, correct. So one of the things that I've heard, because I joined a couple of what do you call that, community groups also in US. One of the ladies, she shared something to me, to the whole group, that was very profound. She said that her mother, when the mother was diagnosed with dementia, towards the late end, she was at a severe stage already. So they were like, oh, okay, the doctor kind of gave up on the mother and says, okay, just be prepared. Let me write a letter for you to send your mom to palliative care. So palliative care, you know, it's like, you hear the word palliative care, it's like, okay lah, yeah, be ready lah, yeah, anytime. The mother has been in the palliative care for a couple of years. And the mother is still okay. And the mother outlived the doctor that was actually taking care of the mother. And one of the things that the lady shared was the reason why it was so successful, the mother had a transformation in the palliative care, home care, was because there was routine that the home actually set. You need to wake up by 8 o'clock. You need to do this at this time. You need to do this. You need to do this. You need to do that. So it's kind of hard when you've got a parent that you actually need to enforce discipline. It's very difficult. But when you send it to a third party, you outsource the problem to a third party, which is what I do all the time in business world, things gets done a lot easier. And that was the key that she actually shared. You must have routine in the life of the, what do you call that, seniors, in the life of the elderly. So you try to fix the routine, but with a little of variation from time to time. And that's what actually helps a lot. So consistency is always a must. So if the person has always been sleeping for 10 hours every day and that's the routine, let it be. Okay. Yep. Any other questions?
For those youngsters, younger ones, not the older people who got start to have memory loss, what are the causes? Is it stress at work, too much worries? You try to recall things. Does it all this cause memory loss? Very stressful.
Okay, there are a couple of different reasons behind it. Nobody actually knows why. The whole early onset dementia thing has only started surfacing in the past 10 years. I think in the first time it was recorded in literature was way back in the early 2000s. That's early onset dementia. What actually causes it? There's a lot of different reasons behind it. I've heard a lot of different reasons. One of it was actually chemicals in the environment, genetics, food intake, screen time, sleep problem, stress, using a lot of computers, digital screens, and everything else. That's all I can tell you. These are all the different information that I've actually gathered thus far, and this is what people are actually looking at and discussing right now. Definitely one of the things I am very sure is the screen time. The amount of digital screen time we get these days is unbelievable. It's really, really unbelievable. I try my best to also avoid as much as I can, but I can't because I'm working like literally around the clock every day. That's one of the major issues. And also with my research, what I'm looking at is building a virtual reality environment. And part of the idea of building a virtual reality environment, I have to actually figure out how to actually make screens more addictive to people. So people talk about, YouTube, they've got an algorithm behind it, you do this search and then they find it, or you watch all these videos, so they actually propose and come up with more of these videos and stuff like that for you and things like that, so that you can, get addicted more to it. So that's one form of, addiction that they actually create using algorithm. But from a instructional designer perspective, one of the things that we have to also look at is to how to actually get people, we don't use the word addicted, we use the word engage, which basically means the same thing. It's just a nicer word to actually use. You get people to become more engaged with the screen. And that's where, a lot of my other colleagues who are also doing the research, a lot of them are actually in the K-12 system. So they've tried to figure out how to actually create games to get, a standard 3-person so engaged into the game that they end up learning a lot of things from the game. So these are the different things that I'm actually working on. And my research is very specific in the sense that I don't do so much of in terms of the learning perspective. Okay, you must have this module, you must have these nice things, you must meet this learning objective, learning aims, and so on and so forth and stuff like that. Mine is like literally the back end of creating the screen itself. That's where things like affordance, Pastor Bessie talked about affordance research. That's one of the things that I'm actually looking at. How do you actually make the screen more addictive? And I can tell you honestly, it is very possible. I can make a screen, I can do in such a way that you feel that you are actually in the world itself. That's what virtual reality is all about. You feel that you are actually part of the world. So if you have got a virtual reality set, for example, Meta Oculus, and then the Apple one, I cannot remember what's the Apple virtual reality set. You put it on, you go for, let's say, a virtual traveling. You put it on and you can really feel that, let's say, you are actually in, for example, Spain. You feel that you're actually walking on the beach of one of the places in Spain. Things like that. There are a lot of different things that are actually involved behind it. And that's part of the different things that I'm actually studying, to look at how these kind of things you create that particular environment. And I shall just leave it at that. Yeah. VR can be very addictive. It can be very addictive. It's, for right now, VR engages your vision and it engages your hearing. Two things. But at the same time, it's also how do you actually bypass the hearing and the vision into your emotion. That's psychological aspects. And that's a lot of work that has been done on that already. How do you actually bypass that whole idea? Because once the whole VR gets into your emotion, you react. If the VR can make you feel very sad, you would react. You will respond to it. If you are traveling in the virtual reality, it makes you feel that you're really part of, the environment. It makes you happy. It makes you respond to the particular environment. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? No? Nope. Okay. All right, so...
Can we overwork our brains?
Have we
Let's say when we are young, we engage our intellect a lot. Can we overuse it? That when we reach the older age, it has burned up all the brain cells.
Yeah. Understand. So there has always been, this is neuroscience field again, it's also part of my research. There is always a theory that we've all learned very, very young, a long time ago, where they talk about the plasticity of the brain. What does that mean? It means that your brain is actually plastic. You can actually expand and stretch it as much as possible. And the whole idea is that when you're young as possible, you try to utilize as much of your brain cells by learning a lot of things, doing a lot of different things. So that's why you do the 360 degrees or 5 sensory kind of activities where you actually, visual, it touch your visual, it touch your hearing, smell, taste, senses, and stuff like that. So the more you actually stimulate, so the whole idea is that the more brain cells you actually keep alive, and then you reserve it, and it's a storage, and then by the time you reach 12 years old, 13 years old, all those brain cells that you don't use, they die off. That's one of the theories that was actually proposed in the past. Of course, now what happens is that there are a lot of other different theories that have actually come about, and to say that that theory is false, that a lot of brain cells don't actually die off, you can actually reserve it, you can bring it up back to life, resuscitate it, whatever that kind of stuff. So there are some of different theories out there right now. One of the things, going back to the question, is are we overusing the brains? I would say in a way, yes, especially for the young generations. Again, it goes back to the amount of screen time exposure. It's becoming a very major issue. Before I came back, I bought a book and I was reading the book, glancing through the book very quickly. I cannot remember the name of the author. So what the author basically was looking at is comparing the brains of the people, the children who have been exposed to so much of screen time. Because in today's world, it is impossible for children not to be exposed to screen time. It's virtually impossible. No matter how poor the person is, the family is, there is still screen times. The screen time in the past, during my generation, was only TV, right? But now it is TV plus cell phone plus iPad plus laptop, computer, whatever, that kind of stuff, which actually overstimulates the brain. And that was what the author was actually talking about, was coming from that direction. And he presented a lot of different, what do you call it, data over the years. He captured like about 10 years of data with this, I don't know what generation they call it, Gen Z, don't know what that particular generation. And he found very interestingly that in the past, what happens is that boys have got a different characteristics from young itself. And it's very distinct, the boisterous activities that they do, the outdoor activities, they are more aggressive, more, hyperactive. They want to do something, they want to hit something, that kind of stuff. Girls are usually more demure, more mild, and things like that. And the statistics have actually shown that in the past 10 years or so, virtually there's no difference between boys and girls anymore in terms of the characteristics, the personality. Boys have become less engaging. And that's one of the major issues, because when boys become less engaging physically, mentally also they become less engaging, emotionally even worse, especially once they hit puberty and above. Because that's a time usually boys actually shut down in terms of emotionally wise. They are trying to process a lot of different things up there in their brains, so that emotionally they are actually shut down. That's one of the issues that the author actually brought up. And the Scandinavian countries, especially countries like, for example, Denmark, Finland, Sweden, they've always been like the model, school model all over the world. Okay, so even like in Malaysia, I don't even know why some of the international schools have actually picked up the Finnish, Danish, school system model, whatever, that kind of stuff. And that model, a couple of years ago, I think as early as about 5 years ago, I cannot remember, it was Finland and Denmark, or one of them or both of them, they started introducing laptops to students as young as Standard 1 itself. All of them get a personal laptop, and they're going to use the laptop all the way until they graduate high school and that kind of stuff. That was the school system. And just a couple of weeks ago, I read that Finland and Denmark, starting from the next school year onwards, they're going to ban all digital devices, because they found that the students were actually not learning. The learning process is dropped drastically amongst all the students, and they are so addicted to the screen, and it actually causes a lot of behavioral problem. So I think what happens is that the kids, when they're exposed to too much of screen, their brain is so saturated, they've got no outlet. And as a result, when they go to school, they end up with a lot of behavioral issues that the teachers really complain. They say they cannot control the students at all. And so with the Finland and Denmark, starting from next year onwards, they're going to throw away all the laptops and go back to the good old basics: pencil, book, paper, exercise books. And they're going to force students to start writing, because they found that a lot of students don't know how to write. and they are so used to spell checker. So what happened is they don't know how to spell. Right? So screen time is definitely one of the major contributor to a lot of mental issues. And it's going to become a major topic. A lot of research and a lot of people are actually embarking on this right now, beating this down really badly. So is that actually, are we actually overworking our brains? I would, for a simple answer, it is yes. The reason is because I know it. Like I said, part of the things that I do is actually developing how to make the screens more engaging for the students. And it involves a lot of things that actually stimulates the brains. It's not stimulating the brain bit by bit. It's like a drastic stimulation. That's kind of very intense stimulation. So it is for the younger generation. The older generation, maybe not so much, but as they go into the adulthood and start working, yeah, it may be. The theory is always this, that the brain is very plastic. You can remodel itself. So like in the past, what happens is that people always say that once you've got developed dementia, you can no longer learn. Period. Stop. You already receive a death sentence. But more research today has actually come out and says that once you're diagnosed with dementia, that does not mean that you can no longer learn. You can still learn. And that's why the cognitive stimulation therapy in the community occupation therapy session actually proves it, that they can still learn. In? Master's degree in? What do you mean? On? Oh, you can, but it will probably be a little bit slower. You need to have a lot of special accommodation. In Malaysia, they don't have special accommodation, as far as I know. But overseas, yes, you have got special accommodations. You can ask for special accommodation for that. All right, so I think I've been talking non-stop for 1.5 hours. I'll give the floor back to Pastor Warlock. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Let's give thanks to Dr. Eugene Yeo for coming to share with us some new knowledge on Alzheimer. I think it's appropriate, because we've got quite a lot of elderly people or children with elderly parents. So, it helps us. Now we know Sungai Buloh is excellent hospital there. Actually, Malaysian hospitals are actually excellent, and all free. So we all buy insurance up to here, and then we forget about our government hospitals. Okay, so if you like, you can engage with him. I think he's given us a contact, so we can ask, maybe engage and get help. Okay, so let's just close with a word of prayer. Thank you, Lord, that we are able to just spend this afternoon together to listen to some good teachings on Alzheimer and dementia. I thank you for Eugene, Lord, that he's studying this so deeply, and also he has brought some knowledge to us, Lord, even about availability of our government hospitals, even in this area. I pray for some, Lord, with this need, or family members with this need, we are able to really learn something and also know where to get help, Lord, if we know loved ones with this problem. Lord, thank you again for our time together. Depart us, Lord, with your blessings, and keep all of us in good health, we pray. In Jesus' name, Lord, we ask.